The Commodore 128D. The Commodore 128, whether it be the D or the regular or the DCR, is a strange old beast. Basically, it's three computers in one. It's a regular Commodore 128, which has 128K of RAM, a new version of BASIC, and a bunch of other features. One of the big selling points in advertising, bizarrely, is the addition of the numeric keypad. Why that was such a big deal, I really cannot fathom. Secondly, it was a regular Commodore 64 with about 99.997% compatibility, and thirdly, it was also a CP/M machine. We'll have a look at some of these features later, including booting CP/M from SD2IEC and also the Ultimate 64. Anyway, I love this computer. There's a little bit of a story behind it. It's a bit of a beast. Now, a friend of mine bought this for an airline pilot on a lay-by on the side of the motorway. He bought it with a Commodore 64, a 1541 old disk drive, and a bunch of floppy disks which all turned out not to work. The disk drive, I believe, exploded, but the Commodore 64 was absolutely fine. He didn't want the 128D, the one in question, and so I purchased it off him. Now, when I got it, the case was not closing properly. It does have a few scratches on it. This is the DCR, which is the metal cased version. Now, bizarrely, the DCR stands for the cost reduced version of the D, although I don't think it is cost reduced. You've got a metal case, which to me feels more pricey than the plastic case of the original. But anyway, this also has 64K of VDC, that's video RAM, and a more modern board. It also has the 8580 newer SID and a reduced chipset. The 128D has a built-in floppy drive and power supply. Now, talking of which, the power supply is actually inside of the case itself, and this beast one day when I was working on it did give me a huge electric shock off the transformer. I bolted backwards out of my chair. I also managed to knock out all of the electricity in my house last night whilst recording footage. Now, what happened was, as you can see in this photo or footage here, the serial cable from the Ultimate 2 shorted onto the power supply, and bam, the whole house went down. So that's twice this machine's given me a bit of a shock. Bless it. Another thing that's happened is the other day, I've been working on this machine for a while, in fact on and off for about a year now, because there are some other faults with it. When I got it, the disk drive didn't work. I managed to repair that. The SID chip was dead. I repaired that by just changing it. The case needed some repair as well, which I did. But the disk drive, although is now working, is stuck on drive 9. Now, I've done loads of research and tried messing around, changing the jumper switches, soldering jumper wires to the 6522, I think it is, and it's still not defaulting to drive 8. Now, if I plug in an external drive, it sees it as drive 8 just fine. So this beast will not ever internally with the disk drive boot on drive 8. Now, I've given up on solving that, but I have found some solutions along the way. The reason I wanted to do that was I really want to run CP/M on this machine, and CP/M will only boot from drive 8. So later in the video we'll see some of the ways I got around that. And without any further ado, let's have a look at the machine itself. So here we are inside looking at the motherboard. Here is that transformer that gave me an almighty shock. We can see here where the ROM chip U36 goes and the kernels, and here's the disk drive. Down here there are the connections for the disk drive, which are internal, and the power supply. Over here we've got the serial and composite, and here's the VIC chip. Here's the cartridge slot, the serial and composite ports again, and over here we've got the two joystick ports down here where I'm pointing. A little bit further back from there we've also got the drive and machine reset. Quite a nice feature on these machines actually. Looking from the back, we've got the cartridge port again, just so you can see that from here. Serial and composite again. A hole here that had a Centronics printer parallel port. RF over here. RGBI for external monitor for 80 column mode. And on the right here we've got the user port, the power connector above, and next to that off camera we've got the on-off switch. Okay, so in this video we're going to add the following chips and have a look at them. The super chip, the servant, here we've got KeyDOS, and my favourite, this is the device manager for the Ultimate 2 Plus. This for me is a big deal breaker, and I'm looking forward to showing it to you. And obviously if you have any problems I can tell you how I created these chips and how to install them and get them working. Also going to be using the SD2 IEC. Here we've got the user port version which works with the 128. This is because the cassette port's on the right hand side, so the distance of the cables is too far. And popping into the camera we've got the Ultimate 2 Plus. This thing just gets better and better and better. Okie dokie. So let's start by looking at the 4 U36 ROMs and then the SD2 IC and the Ultimate 2. Okie dokie, so let's pop in the servant ROM into slot U36 and boot. And here we go, we automatically get a menu with 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 different options there. So most of these are basically disk utilities. We can configure our drives, we can do copying, we can scratch and unscratch, print directories, create auto boots, look at the header, change the format. This really is digging into low level disk manipulation and configuration. We've got a menu here, and as you can see we've got a lot of options indeed. We can change the addresses, the names, the types. This is really stuff that's a bit beyond my knowledge, to be honest, but I wanted to show you this utility in case it's of interest to you. Going back to the main menu again, having a look at the auto boot, and there's a plethora of options there. So this is a piece of software where I think you really need to read the manual, and it's not one that I'll be using very much, but it's nice to know that it exists, and hopefully some of you at least will find this of use. As we can see there's a lot of options going on here, and you're going to have to dig into this and figure out exactly what's going on. It's something that I won't be able to help with, unfortunately, but as you can see we've got DOS commands, we can control the REU, extend the directories, all sorts of goodies in here. Overall I would say very useful for people who really want to manipulate and dig into their disk images. Okay, the next one is called Super Chip. So it comes up with a fairly simple menu here. You've got a nibbler, you've got a file copier, terminal, a quick Go64 with load, which is very handy, and some track editors here, which it looks like you can even manipulate and change individual bytes on the track sectors. He's got a machine code monitor, also the last one had a machine code monitor, I didn't mention that. And you can change single bytes by the look of it, so this again is really for people who are whiz kids, I suppose is the word, at manipulating disk images. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I'm sure some people know why and do. So that's that one, and now let's take a look at the KeyDOS ROM. I did use this one briefly and I quite liked it. Out of the 3 so far, this one I was intending on keeping in my machine, but yes, that changed once I found the device manager ROM. So this one you activate with escape and left arrow. It's also got a plethora of options, as we were going to see when I bring up the menu here. So we've got all the function keys, run, escape, and must be about 20 options there. There's a machine code monitor dump, there's screen edit, video manager, there's stuff for 1581 users to create partitions, there's a super boot for GEOS, a disk monitor, drive resets, clock manager, RAM DOS, something for RAM DOS. There's all sorts in here. Again, this is even more than the last two, way out of my league, but I do like these ROMs and seeing what the machine can do. So if these are of interest to you, then yeah, go ahead, and you'll have to burn these as EPROMs, of course, and pop them in your U36 socket. So let's go on to the last, and the one that I'm looking forward to using, because it basically enables the Ultimate 2 to work extremely well on the Commodore 128. So rebooting the machine now with the ROM chip in. As you can see, it scans and looks at what drives are available and gives you information. Now what it has done is recognise that there's an SD2 IEC. Now if we had the Ultimate 2 in there, it would actually do the same thing as it did with the SD2 IEC. So it would scan and find the drive 8 on the Ultimate 2. Now normally when you put in the Ultimate 2, the machine will boot automatically to the Commodore 64. So the big plus with this is it doesn't actually do that. It gives you control over the 1 to 8, and from there you can even boot things like CPM on the 1 to 8 from either the SD2 IEC or, even more importantly for me, the Ultimate 2. In the next part I'll be showing you that in detail, of course. It really is a deal breaker for anybody with a 1 to 8 and an Ultimate 2. So looking at the menus, it's quite a simple boot. We've got select boot device, so you can change the drive numbers. You can disable a drive or mute a drive, and going back to the 1 to 8 itself, you've got a very simple interface there. Just quickly I'll show you the boot device selection screen. There we have it, very simple. It can find the SD2 IEC and configure it to drive 8, and it's found the internal 1571. Okay, and so here's my SD2 IEC for the user port, and I've already loaded the image. So what I'm going to do now is reboot or reset the computer. I'm not sure if this is necessary or not, but this seemed to work in my experience, and now it will auto boot CPM. So what I'm going to do is fast forward it to the end for your convenience and put a timestamp. This is actually called CPM fast, so theoretically it should boot more quickly than the regular CPM, but I'm going to run both tests and we'll see how they go. Okay, and that clocked in at just over 2 minutes at 2 minutes 03. So let's now boot the regular version of CPM from the D71 file. Again, I'll speed this up for your convenience. Let's see how we do. Okay, and that clocked in actually at 1.38. So in fact, CPM fast is slower than regular CPM. Now I did do some research on this, and to be fair, CPM fast is only supposed to increase the speed on a 80 column mode CPM. So in that case, fair enough, but good to know that CPM fast doesn't really speed up anything on a regular 40 column C1 to 8. Okay, so this is the most important part. This is going to be how you use the Ultimate 64 on the 1 to 8. Now I've left the background noise on because I'm sure you like the drive noise like myself. So I've powered on the machine, and as you can see it's initiated drive 8 on the Ultimate 2. So we're going to type Go64, yes, we're sure. Hit the reset, the middle button, hit enter into the SD card, then simply we're going to go to the CPM system image, mount it, hit enter. Now we're going to reset the Ultimate 2 again, hit F5 to get to this menu, and if we reboot C64, what it actually does is reboot the machine itself, so it won't go back into the 64 to 8, and we can start booting CPM. I'll speed this up like I did with the other clips and give you a timestamp on how long it took to boot. Okay, so that actually only took 1 minute and 7 seconds, so that's proof that the Ultimate 2 is a little bit faster than the SD2 IEC. I wasn't actually expecting that until I ran this test, but hey, thumbs up for the Ultimate 2. Okay, so how do we run a demo on the Ultimate 2 Plus with the 1 to 8? Well, what we need to do is turn off one of the drives, because most demos won't work if both of the drives are on the bus. So if we go 64, boot into there and press the middle button to reset and go into the SD card. From there we run a piece of software called stfu.prg, and from here we can just simply turn off any drive that we like. There we go, we've disabled the internal drive, which is drive 9. Now we can reset. Press the middle button again. And now go to my demos, in my case, wherever your demos are. And simply run the disk. It will reset to the C64 now. And we'll just give it a second to load, just so you can see that it does work. Obviously the C64 is quite a slow loader, and there we have it. I can assure you this demo won't run on SD2 IEC, and it won't run usually on the 1 to 8. So by turning off one of the drives, we can now get it to run. Marvellous. Well, this video's been going on for some time now. That's almost 20 minutes of your time and about 3 days of my time. So I just have one more thing to show you, and then one more thing after that that's a bit of fun. So you might be keen to know how to check what's inside your machine, what the spec is, without actually taking off the case. So I'm going to show you a bit of software that does that now. So let's boot up this software. Mine's called sysinfo128.prg, and here we go. I did speed up the loading to save you from having to sit through it. So we can see it tells you what basic ROM you have in low and high, what editor and kernel version you have. As we can see, mine's a German 2 on a 1 to 8 DCR. The character set version, German also. What kind of VDC chip I have, so we can confirm that I have a VDC chip with 64K of video RAM. The SID chip is the 8580 new SID, as I mentioned before. It's a PAL machine, and we've got a RAM obviously of 1 to 8, and here we have the drive information, so it can even pick up that we're using the SD2 IEC on drive 8 and disk 9 internally. Thank you ever so much for watching and getting this far. I've really enjoyed making this video for you. I absolutely adore the Commodore 128D and would recommend it in your collection, and I adore the SD2 IEC. So I'm showing you this Mario Brothers just because I've always wanted to try this out on the 1 to 8, never got quite round to it, and gotta say it does play extremely well. The 64 one is extremely impressive, but this one is even more impressive. It's, I think, a higher frame rate, less glitches, not glitches so much in the 64, but less stuttering. So absolutely fantastic. Well, please put a like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. I think I might do another 1 to 8D video soon, perhaps a shorter one demonstrating some of the sysinfo software and maybe a few other utilities and any tips and tricks that I pick up. So again, thank you for watching. Retro Marquee out.